After she lost her job, he made her beg him daily for grocery money while posting luxury vacations online. She sat at the small kitchen table, hands flat on the surface so he would not see them shake, listing out prices for bread, milk, cereal like she was presenting a budget to a hostile board. He leaned against the counter with his phone, thumbs flying as he uploaded another beach photo, telling strangers how hard work pays off. Every time she said a number, he raised an eyebrow and asked why she needed that much, reminding her she no longer brought anything to the table. The first time she tried to push back, she mentioned the years she had worked late, the promotions, the layoff that was not her fault, and he laughed and said, "If you were really that valuable, they would have kept you." In that moment, she understood. The money was not the problem, it was control. The choice in front of her felt small and huge at once. Stay quiet to keep the peace or tell someone what was happening. She opened her messages and started typing to an old coworker, then deleted the text when she imagined their pity. Instead, she made a different choice. That night, she told herself she would keep track of everything, every demand, every withheld dollar, and figure out a way to make it matter. The next morning, when he handed her a 20 like a tip and told her to make it stretch, she forced herself to meet his eyes and said calmly, "Can you say that again?" and set her phone face down but recording on the table. He smirked, repeated the words slower, enjoying how small he thought she was. When he walked out to his car, humming, she stopped the recording and realized she had just crossed a line she could not uncross. At first, her secret recordings felt like a private act of resistance, something that belonged only to her in a life where nothing else did. She stored the audio files in a hidden folder, labeling them with dates and short notes: grocery money, insurance threat, vacation speech. But the more she collected, the worse the days became. He noticed she no longer cried when he called her lazy and ungrateful. So he escalated, cutting the cash even further and insisting she ask him out loud for every dollar in front of their teenage daughter. The girl stopped eating dinner at the table, grabbing food and disappearing to her room, headphones on, shoulders tight. When the woman tried to talk to her, the girl shrugged and said she did not want to be in the middle, which felt like another door closing. Desperate, the woman finally uploaded one of the recordings to a private cloud folder and sent the link to herself at a different email, a tiny attempt to move the truth outside the house. That same week, he forgot to pay the utility bill and then blamed her when the lights went out, saying if she really wanted to contribute, she would figure something out. Sitting in the dark living room, she scrolled past his newest post, a poolside cocktail, a caption about living your best life. Something inside her cracked. She called a general hotline she found online for help with money and relationships. But when a volunteer picked up and asked if she felt in physical danger, she hesitated and said no. They offered resources, websites, a support group across town. She thanked them and never wrote down the addresses, ashamed that her story did not sound bad enough. The next day, he announced he was booking another trip alone because he was tired of being around negative energy and demanded she figure out how to cover the next month's groceries with almost nothing. By the end of that week, her pantry was nearly empty. Her checking account showed a single-digit balance, and the only thing that seemed to grow was the folder of recordings and her sense that she was trapped in a life no one would believe. The turning point came from a place she did not expect. One afternoon, while he was out, she sat at the table with unpaid bills spread in front of her, staring at numbers that no longer seemed real. Her daughter walked in quietly, set her phone down, and slid into the chair across from her. Without saying anything, the girl opened her photo gallery and tapped on a video. The woman heard her own voice come out of the tiny speaker, thin and shaking, asking for money for milk while his voice mocked her in the background. The angle of the recording showed the husband's face clearly, his expression bored and cruel as he scrolled on his phone. The daughter had been recording from the hallway, unseen. "I cannot just listen anymore," the girl whispered. "I showed this to my counselor." The woman's first feeling was not relief, but fear. She imagined him finding out, imagined him turning that rage onto the girl. But then the daughter added that the counselor had asked permission to share the video with someone who helped with this kind of thing, and had given the girl a card with a name and a number. For a brief moment, hope rose, bright and sharp. They sat together and called the number, hands touching on the table, as a calm voice on the other end introduced herself as an attorney who worked with people experiencing financial control. The attorney listened, asked simple questions, and then asked if the woman had access to any records, statements, screenshots, proof of his spending. The woman's folder of recordings and his public posts suddenly felt like more than secret shame. They looked like evidence. The attorney laid out a plan. Document everything. Do not confront him yet. Quietly gather copies of tax returns, account numbers, anything tied to his business. It sounded like a way out. But as the woman began following the plan, sneaking photos of statements and downloading his posts before he could delete them, the risk grew. One evening, he came home early, caught her with a stack of mail in her hands and her phone camera open. His easy smile vanished. He took the phone, scrolled, and found the hidden folder with recordings labeled by date. The room went cold. He did not shout. Instead, he silently placed the phone on the counter, stepped closer, and told her in a low voice that if she tried to ruin him, he would make sure she left with nothing, not even the kid. In that moment, the path that had seemed like a rescue suddenly looked like a trap, and she realized that every step she had taken toward freedom had also made her more visible to the person who wanted her powerless. That night, sleep would not come. She lay awake listening to the house breathe, every creak sounding like a warning. Fear pressed on her chest, but under it was something else. Anger at how small her life had become, how carefully she measured each word, each dollar, each step. Remembering the attorney's calm voice, she understood that the plan had never been about sneaking forever. It had been about reaching a moment when she was ready to act. In the dim light of the hallway, she walked to her daughter's room and found her awake, staring at the ceiling. Quietly, she told the girl they were leaving the next day. Not someday, not when things got worse, but tomorrow. Morning came, and she moved through the routine like any other day, packing a small bag with documents and clothes while he showered, sliding her phone and the social media screenshots into an envelope. When he left for work, tossing a sarcastic comment over his shoulder about not spending all his money at once, she and her daughter walked out a different door with the envelope pressed against her ribs. At the attorney's office, walls lined with simple certificates instead of glossy photos, she placed the envelope on the desk and said, for the first time out loud, "This is financial abuse." The attorney nodded, not surprised, not shocked, just steady, and began the process of filing for divorce and temporary support. In the weeks that followed, his anger spilled out online instead of in the kitchen. Long posts about betrayal and gold diggers that contradicted years of his bragging about paying for everything. Those same posts, along with the recordings and the video her daughter had captured, filled a thick folder on the attorney's desk. In the quiet of a courtroom, under harsh fluorescent lights, his own words were read back to him, not as jokes or captions, but as patterns of control and humiliation. He tried to charm, to joke, to twist the story, but each time a judge interrupted and asked a direct question, the answers only underlined the picture already drawn. When the decision came, it was not dramatic, just a series of statements, division of assets, orders for support, a recognition that what had happened in that house had a name. Walking out of the building into the bright daylight, her daughter at her side, the woman felt something unfamiliar, space inside her own life. There was no sudden joy, no instant erasure of fear, only the steady realization that every dollar she would earn from now on, every small decision, would be hers. That night, in a small rented place with bare walls and mismatched furniture, she opened the fridge, saw food they had bought with a card in her own name, and understood that the real luxury was not in any vacation photo. It was in the simple fact that no one could make her beg for bread ever again.